What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast, a video game show where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. New episodes come out Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Central Time, and you can listen to those on podcast services around the World Wide Web, as well as watch a video version of each episode over on our YouTube channel. So check that out. Links for all that are in the description below. I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno to you as well. How are you this fine day?
I like to think that the flickering of our Team Chat light in the background here,
Yeah.
which Jerrett and I were joking, kind of reminds us of the Conjuring.
Yeah, it
it's
looks
a little
creepy.
possessed. I think that might be the ghost of Zach.
Oh,
I think he's come back to visit us.
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, we got to get him his own.
have another microphone that just goes back to just record the buzzing of this little light box.
And we never explain what it is. It's just like, oh, that's the ghost of Zach. He's not dead, but
he's not dead. He's just always with us.
Projecting.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
That's
like
perfect.
that other movie starring the same guy from The Conjuring. Oh, why am I blanking on the name?
Watchmen?
It's not Sinister.
Oh, Insidious?
It's Insidious, yes. I love that movie. I thought it was
that one.
great. So a lot of people
got the
hated
good
it.
creepies?
I thought it was awesome.
Nice.
I guess not many people are making horror films about astral projection, but they were like, oh,
But
we'll
it's
do
an
it.
untapped market, and they struck first.
They did it. And they did it well.
Very nice, very nice. Well, you can also find us over on social media such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can join our Discord server where we have a lot of great gaming conversations when we're not here recording the show. And if you'd like to help make the show bigger and better, just like our brand new patron, Elise M. Thank you so much for joining our patron.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our Patreon, I should say. But just like Elise M., Mariah S., Zach S., Susan M., James K., Ben W., Michael B., Fuchsia Rascal, Andrew M., Michael S., and Brandon W. have done. They are over on patreon.com/Team Chat Podcast, supporting the show for as little as $1 a month. And in return, well, they're getting some cool perks like getting the episodes early before their general Tuesday release and access to a private channel on our Discord server, the Rogues Gallery. And for our $5 tier, they also get 2 weeks early access to a subsidiary sideshow of Team Chat Podcast, Team Chit Chat, where Mogan and I talk about things that are not related to games at all. And after that 2-week early access period, then it's out available general release for everyone to enjoy and listen to as well. But if you can't do that and all that, that's totally fine. There are other great ways to help make the show bigger and better outside of Patreon as well, such as writing us reviews, subscribing wherever you listen to or watch the show, telling your friends, following us on social media. All that great stuff helps get the word out of Team Chat Podcast to the masses. And for that, we are incredibly grateful and appreciative and love all of our listeners, viewers, and patrons alike.
Heart emoji.
Emojis. Boom. Perfectly done. We're getting good at that.
Yeah.
We got a good flow. But before we get into our main topic of the day, we do have to get into a little bit of news and what's coming out soon.
Okay, all kinds of stuff came out last week, which, just to catch up on a couple of the highlights, Ys 9, Monstrum Nox, yet another Ys game, has come out for Switch and PC. Also just recently released Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin. This released on July 9th for Switch and PC as well. Now, just to catch everybody up, if you're not familiar with Monster Hunter Stories, it's kind of like a spin-off series of Monster Hunter where it's more like Pokemon mixed with a JRPG. So it's more like turn-based combat and you're acquiring monsters instead of just brutally slaughtering them like in Monster Hunter.
Right.
And they're really adorable and it looks like a really cute game and I'm actually really curious to try it. But I may or may not because the list of games I need to play is already so very long.
It's so long.
It's so long.
There's so many good ones coming out this year.
Anyways, so out as of today, July 13th, we have all of the following: Curved Space for Switch and Where the Heart Leads. Ooh, this is one of those Where the Heart Leads. This might be one of those indie games that Roro is really excited about.
That does sound familiar.
Maybe it's not, but I feel like this was one that I was like, I'm pretty sure
Is it Roro?
He's jazzed about this.
Are you jazzed?
Are you jazzed? Anyways, that's for PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. And then coming out in just a couple of days, we have Lost at Sea for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. A day after that, it's Formula One. I was like, F1 2021 could be anything. It's Formula One. I see now. All right, F1 2021 for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC is out on the 16th. So is Observer System Redux for PS4 and Xbox One. Space Jam, A New Legacy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Space Jam, A New Legacy, a game I didn't know they were making, and they honestly didn't need to make.
I didn't know they were making it either, but it looks like we got to do a review.
Anyways, that's for Xbox Series X, and subscribe now to the $10 Patreon, and if you want, we'll play this Space Jam game.
I'll have to make it.
We need 5 people to subscribe at the $5 level, and we will play and review Space Jam.
Sounds like a fun goal.
It does.
So what would that be monetarily? A good, okay.
That'd be $50. We could afford the game on that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'll have to make the stretch goal for it. Yeah.
Of course. All right. Anyways, that's out on July 16th, even though nobody asked for it, and only for Xbox Series X and S and Xbox One. Wow, what an exclusive Xbox.
It's exclusive. All right.
Whatever. Anyways, the last one rounding out the rest of the rest of this week is the only game I personally care about. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD remake for the Switch.
Only a couple more days now.
It's only a few more days. I'm actually very excited. I do plan on picking it up because I personally loved Skyward Sword. It had its problems, but they are clearly making an effort to fix a lot of the quality of life things people complained about then, so I will happily give it another go.
Very nice.
Plus, breaking out your old Wii U is a real pain.
You gotta set it all up.
Yeah, being able to put it on the Switch
cables.
is strongly preferred.
Alrighty, well, before we jump into our main topic of the day, we did have one other quick little news story to go over that built nicely into the main topic.
It ties in. So today.
the main topic of the show for the day is that I have finished. Saints be praised, I have finally finished Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yes, golf club. That is, and 105 hours later.
I mean, that's no small feat.
No,
it's a big game. You told me the other day that you had put in 105 hours into the game, and I was aghast because that's Persona 5 levels of hourage.
Yeah,
that's insane.
It is. It was a lot of hours.
That's absolutely wild. I don't think I've put 105 hours into any game other than Stardew Valley, Breath of the Wild, and probably Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a very select few games.
Even games that I love. Hollow Knight. But everything else, they haven't gotten to that level yet. That's insanity.
Yeah. So we'll be talking a little bit about that in the before coming up. But what ties us so nicely into it is that it was like leaked last week and then like subsequently very much announced by Ubisoft that the next Assassin's Creed iteration is going to be Assassin's Creed Infinity. And what it's going to be is like a live service ongoing for forever? Question mark?
So I had this thought.
Living world Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah. I had this thought when I heard the name. That's a really bold choice that they honestly probably can't follow up on.
Was that Birdie?
I don't know.
One of the dogs in the other room just made a.
It was a Well, she was bemoaning the Assassin's Creed Infinity news. Anyways,
very loud
just the absolute chutzpah to call it Infinity. Like, so what? You're never going to make another game, and then when you do, what are you going to call that one? Finite.
Yeah.
Eventually, games do end, and I mean, this is just kind of the whole argument, right? Is that at what point do live service games cease to have relevancy and cease to be fun? Because I know that, we kind of talked about with you, 105 hours into Valhalla is insane.
It's a lot.
So putting in that amount of hours and more into another Assassin's... Anyways, I feel like you have more accurate thoughts on this than I do because you're actually a fan of Assassin's Creed. So I want to hear your thoughts.
Basically what they're saying is that it's going to be like Bloomberg is Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg is the one who actually like kind of broke the story and everything. And what it looks like it's going to be, and this is from is that it's going to be like a big world that's constantly updated in the facts like there will be multiple settings, multiple storylines that will go on throughout, maybe not all at once, but like throughout the course of the game. Now, and that's where it kind of gets. And so it says, think in terms of like what it looks like and how it may operate. They're giving examples of like, it's a poor example, I think, but like Anthem is like kind of like, but like more maybe akin to Grand Theft Auto 5 online and different stuff like that. How it's like there will periodically be like content drops or like storylines that they release into the game for like heists and different stuff like that in Grand Theft Auto Online. which that comparison gave me pause. And I was like, I don't like Grand Theft Auto Online. I've tried it. It's like, and even Red Dead Online when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out. I tried both of those and I was just like, I kind of get it, but also it got very frustrating. It's just, there's a lot of questions how this will be implemented. Is it going to be, say, if it was a single, it's going to have a multiplayer aspect to it, like is kind of what they're saying. It's going to be this big online open thing. I would have, and that's kind of what, well, okay. There's still a lot we don't know. Okay. So my mind is going kind of rampant of where it could be. Because with those examples of being what it is it going to be something more like Anthem where you can do these solo quests, solo storylines. You can play the game completely solo, but maybe other friends can join in. What is that going to look like? Are there going to be like online matches? Is it going to be just this open world where you can see like people running around more MMO style? And there's a lot of different things here where I'm kind of like, my big thing is if it's like Grand Theft Auto 5, Red Dead Redemption Online, I felt like I couldn't go 2 feet without getting shot by somebody.
Yeah.
And that just, when that repeatedly happens, and like I've even seen a lot of people complain recently on Twitter about Sea of Thieves, where like they roll up to a port or an outpost and somebody's just camping there and just sinks their ship, and then they're sitting on the spawn point. So as soon as the person spawns back in, they just attack them again.
Oh my God.
It's that kind of stuff, that like level of trolley things that happen in these live service online games that kind of scare me away from them, or to the point where I'm like, I don't like that, because I got so frustrated trying to do anything in Grand Theft Auto Online and just constantly getting annihilated at every turn. And it was very much the thing. Money is king in those games too. In-game currency, which you usually buy, so it's like the more they have a pay-to-win feel to me.
Yeah, I completely get it.
They may not be that way, but that's how they feel.
Well,
so having that as kind of like the main example that they're saying, this is how this is going to look. And because I know, like, back when we did the episode on Assassin's Creed, when Ubisoft saying they're wanting to get more into free-to-play.
Yes.
Like, that's where I was kind of like, okay. And I kind of said that's exciting to me. That's interesting to me. If it's going to be more of like a single-player game where, say, take, for example, it's Valhalla. It starts off, say, Valhalla is game 1 in this series. And you play through Valhalla and you get that experience. After that, there's still seasonal content drops of things you can go do in the world. Then maybe like 2 years later, after they drop some DLC into that storyline, they say, hey, here is the next chapter.
Is it accurate to say that that's kind of like Destiny?
Yes.
So more like a Destiny. Is what you think would be more fun.
Yeah.
And I would definitely agree with that, because I completely, totally on your side that these types of games that incentivize you to make the in-game purchases.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't care about the kind of experience that non-paid users are having. They only care about the people that are pumping in microtransaction money.
Right.
Or macrotransaction money.
Exactly. So it just become a thing too. That's a pretty big shift from what Assassin's Creed has been with these yearly, every other year installments. Now, in Assassin's Creed Infinity, they've said isn't coming until at least 2024. So there's actually there's a long time, and there's a long time for this to grow and change and to evolve into something else. All these things I'm saying are based purely on conjecture of what comes to my mind when I read the information that they've said so far about the game.
Yeah.
And so there are things that excite me about that, whereas say it is like a free-to-play experience. Say the game is free-to-play, and then you buy the arcs and the expansions as they come out, or it is more like an Apex Legends where it is supported by cosmetic microtransaction things, and so you don't have to ever buy a base expansion or anything like that. But it becomes, I don't know. It's so early. It's hard to make say this scares me or it excites me.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of
just too much.
I have to see what's coming up.
I might even think that Assassin's Creed might take the approach that Final Fantasy XIV has, because Final Fantasy XIV Online is still going hella strong, and that's a paid monthly subscription. It's $15 a month, which kind of makes more sense in my mind of, okay, if you want to have a game that's going to last, which Final Fantasy XIV has,
right,
and it's got exactly what you're describing of these big content drops every now and then it's kind of like an MMORPG within that, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like you're actually getting value out of continuing to play the game with thousands of other players online. Sure, you should probably be paying for that. $15 a month is a little much, but whatever.
Well, or maybe it turns out looking more like a world, like a subscription, like WoW based thing, where it's like you buy the first game and then they do have like the purchasable content packs later. So that way it is more of a. I feel like with that helps it stay. Could help keep it more of a single player focused thing. Maybe not have to rely so much on multiplayer aspects of it. I just had a hard time looking at like what a big open multiplayer world of Assassin's Creed would look like.
So
other than just being like you run around, you do like there are the main story quests that you can do like solo and stuff. But then other than that, you just like randomly get like pop-ups of assassination targets you got to go take out or like places to explore. Like, you know,
my ideal is, since you're supposed to be assassins, right? And you're supposed to be all stealthy and whatnot. Gigantic games of hide and seek between you and other assassins. I think that sounds like fun.
That's kind of what the Assassin's Creed multiplayer was back in like I think it was Brotherhood, or Revelations, that introduced like a side multiplayer aspect to Assassin's Creed, where it really was just like a big game of cat and mouse, and it was fun, but it was hard.
See, I don't mean cat and mouse. I mean hide and seek.
Well, I mean it was kind of hide and seek because you're hiding like
you all start at the same.
Somebody walks by, so you know there's a lot to it, but I was surprised how my initial gut reaction to it was like, ooh, I don't know about this.
I mean, that's my reaction to most things. Yeah. So you're just finally sinking to my level.
I'm just saying, like, maybe it's more of, I'm imagining it wrong, and it is going to become more of this thing where it's like a hub, where it's like you buy this like service, yes, of Assassin's Creed Infinity. That like, and then like you can choose which story you want to go play, and it loads into that one, where it's more of like the Assassin's Creed Infinity could almost be seen more of like what the Animus is, the machine that you like puts you into the past. It's almost viewed as more as like that, where it's like you log into it and then you choose your adventure for the day. Like you could be going to Valhalla in this one. You could be going to India, like, you know, medieval India, or like when Britain was, you know, in control of it and all that stuff. And like maybe a story set there. Then we have one over in Japan. So, you know, something, you know, I don't know. I'm just spitballing. But like, and so it's like each time you log in, you can choose which one of these adventures and worlds you want to live in. Maybe it's something more like that. That excites me.
That would be pretty
neat.
And
it's like you can then pick and choose, you know, to then pay and add on to which adventures you want to go into. But it's like they all like kind of exist in this hub. And maybe there is some kind of like multiplayer facet tied alongside that. I don't know. But anyway, it's coming. And in 2024, so there's still 3 years to figure out what this is even going to look like.
I mean, the most I can say about that is 3 years of development time for a game on that scale.
Well, I'm sure it
seems short.
I'm sure it's been in the background for a while.
Yeah, and like, but we've had Ubisoft a lot of other games that have been in the making for longer than that launched really broken.
It's true. But I mean, this is going to be tied between two of their, I believe, Montreal, and it's two Canadian studios who are going to be kind of in control of it. And so, you know, share it between two studios. It's probably been in development for a few years already in the background, maybe even as they were doing Valhalla. I don't know, but like since they're just now saying it, and it's still 3 years before they're even projecting to launch it. We're going to add in delays in there too, so we're looking at 2025 maybe. Yeah. So we've got time to see what this is going to turn into. So we'll see. I am anxiously kind of waiting to hear more, because I honestly thought like that and seeing what Ubisoft's free-to-play would kind of have a little bit more of an excitement factor for me, but I was surprised more purely based off of the games that they said it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm going to like that.
Yeah, no one should be making comparisons to Anthem. it's not good.
Sadly, yes.
It's not a good look.
Unless it's a spiritual successor being like, look, you took all the bad things of Anthem and fixed them, and now you made this fantastic game.
Better game, finally.
All right, well, now we'll jump in then, segue in from Assassin's Creed talk to more Assassin's Creed talk.
Oh boy.
With my review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I am actually very excited to hear this, because I know next to nothing about Assassin's Creed Valhalla other than am Viking.
Yes.
Turtle, make 2 shields, bash bash.
You know what? I completely forgot to ever fight with the 2 shields.
Oh my God, Jerrett. You
105 hours of gameplay. I forgot.
You failed to do the one thing I wanted you to do. Incredible.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so that's literally as much as I know, is that occasionally you like conquer other people and make a settlement.
Yeah.
And you kill people. That's what I know about Valhalla.
In a nutshell, yes.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that's what they put on the box?
Yes, you You do those things. You kill people in game.
Good job.
Good job,
You
champ.
did the Assassin's Creeding.
So I'm not. While I am going to talk about like my pros cons, I will be talking. I'm not going to go into the full story because it's expansive and it's huge and there's a lot to it. So I'm not going to try to like hit all those beats. I am going to share later on some story beats that were my favorite. Some of that is in-game stuff, like near the end of the game and like final end of game stuff. I will let you know before I say any of those things. Give a little bit of spoiler alert so you can mute, take out your headphones, whatever you want to do. But I will give plenty of forewarning before I jump into all that stuff. But first off, though, I have also done, we have a first impressions episode where I talked about like, some base mechanics and different things of the game. So I'm not going to rehash that stuff as much either to keep this more focused on the overall impressions of how I felt this game went. But basically, you play this game as Eivor, and you can choose to be either a male or female Eivor. I chose to be female Eivor, and I think that was the way superior choice because she was an amazing character.
Ain't nobody choosing the male option. Like, literally who?
Who
chose
saw, like,
Alexios over Cassandra?
Right? Cassandra all day.
People be crazy.
Cassandra all day. And so I think that Eivor was a fantastic character. But anyway, you play as Eivor of the Raven clan. Ooh. And it starts off in Norway. It starts off when you're a young child. Your parents are killed in an attack by rival Norse kingdom, Viking kingdom, and you then grow up under the protection of a fellow king and brought into his family, where you grow up next to his son Sigurd, and you become like, you basically are family. Throughout the early events of the game, you then leave Norway because Sigurd's father, instead of giving the kingdom to Sigurd, promised their kingdom to King Harald of Norway, as he was unifying all of Norway and the Norse clans. This takes place, I believe, roughly like around 800 AD.
Oh,
I
wow.
think. So it's pretty early still. And I'm going to verify that to be absolutely sure.
King Harald?
Yeah. I thought at first it was like Harold Hardrada, but then I was like, wait, this is way too early because that's like 1066.
I'm
when
just
all
thinking
that
that the name King Harold doesn't really like inspire fear or intimidation.
Apparently, King Harold Hardrada, when they during the Battle of Hastings, homeboy was like 6'9" or something. He was like massive mountain.
Well, I mean, isn't that really common that like the Swedes and the Norwegians and the Finns, they're really tall?
Yeah.
Why they be so tall?
Get those genes,
Yeah, those frost giant genes that got worked in there.
Right? So it says it takes place around 873 AD. And so you leave. Sigurd is rightfully pissed that he's like, this is supposed to be my kingdom. Screw you, Dad.
Bro.
So I'm going out for greater things. Eivor, you coming with? And you leave Norway, headed off to this new land, England, that you're hearing is being settled. And so the whole like time period overarching thing is like the Norse settlement of England and interacting with the other Danes and Saxons and that were already in the land, as well as like even some later on in the game, like the Picts way up north and like what is now Scotland and things like that. And so you then settle Ravensthorpe. It's your new settlement. You go and then you start slowly expanding out into the other territories of England. And along the way, you do meet the connection of what brings in the Assassin's Creed to this. I will say, I'm just going to go ahead and say, there is modern day stuff that happens around this, but I'm just like I'm not going to go into that because it's honestly so little.
Yeah.
And I honestly, because I have missed a couple things, like I haven't completed Odyssey. I haven't finished an Assassin's Creed game since Origins. I guess Odyssey is the one I missed. But I didn't honestly kind of know what was going on there. And I'm just like, I honestly don't care about this as much because I'm super excited about the Viking part of it.
I mean, there's no one that cares about the modern day part.
Right?
No
it's
one.
Like I don't really care about that. I just want to be like, I just want to exist in this historical world.
They should just remove those parts. They really should.
Just keep the conflict of it's the assassins versus the Templars, and we're good. Like that's kind of like the overarching thing. But like I don't need this. Like we got to save this current apocalyptic thing that's about to happen. And we do that through something in the past.
Are you ready for a conspiracy theory?
Hit me with it.
Conspiracy theory. Ubisoft forces people that are being punished to work on the modern day Animus parts of Assassin's Creed
You're
games.
in performance review.
Yeah.
Take the modern storyline.
If you did bad on the last game, you have to work on only the modern day parts for the next one. You're like, oh man, don't get me any cool Viking stuff. This fucking sucks.
That's very true. That
is totally my conspiracy theory. It's a punishment for if you've been bad at Ubisoft. I think I'm right.
I think
let's
so.
write to
Ubisoft. Come on, tell
Phil
us.
Spencer.
No. Easgilmore.
That's what I said.
Very strange pronunciation.
At least this time I didn't say Phil Spector like I always do. So almost there. I'll get to
Slowly learning the names. But so that's kind of like the overarching thing. You then become associated with the Assassin's Creed. With the assassins who are all at this point called the Hidden Ones. Oh. And it's the Order of Ancients is who you're going against, who later become the Templars. And so you become involved in this story, and that you eventually are spreading throughout England, taking over or creating alliances, growing your settlement, and that's kind of like the overarching thing happening here. That sets the stage. Now we move into the other stuff. So like I said, the main meat of this game is that you're going from territory to territory, completing a story arc there, which I mentioned in my first impressions. I really, really love that it separated the game and broke them up into these different arcs separated by the territory. Because while this game was long, I appreciated that it gave you those very definite stopping points if you did want to go around and explore and do side quests, do something like that.
Yeah.
Because I sometimes feel that with games that don't do that and kind of have this feeling is that you can sometimes complete a quest and you don't know when there's going to be that definitive good storyline. You may be okay, I feel like that was a good stopping point, but then you go in the next quest and you're like, I've been waiting on you. Oh, sorry. I've been derping around for 4 days. You know what I mean? And you just kind of complete these side things and you get to the main story and you're kind of now what am I doing again?
Yeah.
I kind of liked that it had these smaller contained mini stories that led to the greater whole. Yeah. I did like that. Granted, counterpoint to that is it does some there were too many. I feel like there could have been, it was it bloated itself out a little bit too big. It could have helped if the story was a little bit more condensed. Because I understand they were wanting to give you the option to do more outside of the main story, which is kind of what I wound up happening and why I spent 105 hours in the game. But I was also that bloat kind of led to some of the arcs feeling repetitive.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it's I kind of did this already with Homeboy in South England. Why am I doing it with...
There's only so much difference you can add to the spin of Vikinging.
Yeah.
There's only so much conquering you can do.
Well, because there are these territories that you're trying to make the alliances with. There are monasteries and settlements and stuff that you can along rivers and things in the sea that you can then go do a raid, which are really fun side activities. Helps you get supplies and loot and stuff that you can then use to upgrade your settlement, build more buildings, upgrade those buildings to give you various perks more health, additional stamina, different stuff like that. Or gave you additional activities, you could build a fishing hut and something like that. Then you could go fishing and start bringing in fish, which would give you more rewards. So it gave a lot of different, more homesteady things that you had to do that you could do also. And to just kind of make this feel more alive than just being hey, you upgraded your building, great, you get this perk. It gave you more things to do as you went along.
Part of the game sounds like the part that I would actually really like is the homesteading parts.
It's not super in depth. Don't get
it's
think
no
it's not
Stardew.
Stardew Valley,
Yeah.
exactly. But it does provide start opening up these other side activities.
I mean, I'm one of the people in Monster Hunter World that will go on expeditions just to go fishing.
Yeah.
Nobody fishes in that game. I think it's me. Mm-hmm. I think I'm the only one fishing in Monster Hunter. just getting a couple casts in.
Was it last episode? I guess. Oh yeah, because we were shitting on the fishing scene from Tell Me Why. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
About how terrible, and I did not like the fishing mechanics in Valhalla.
I
will
enjoy
say.
fishing
So
most of the time, and even that was not
dig around in that too
salvageable
much.
in that game. But the point is, I love that kind of the chill stuff in the background is what I usually gravitate towards.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much story progress I would be able to make without just doing the home. Is there a pacifist mode?
No, you're not in Assassin's Creed. You have to.
What a bummer.
Not in this one. But so yeah, the raids that you can do, there are also the general open world game discovery things. You can go, each territory has a certain amount of wealth, mysteries, and artifacts that you can find.
Mysteries. I like the sound of that.
World side quests, world events kind of stuff is what those are. And in each territory, you can usually find a whole armor set, weapon set, different things like that you can use and upgrade. I kind of liked that aspect of it. I know that's not something new to the Assassin's Creed, Origins and Odyssey had that where you could change your armor and all this other stuff. I kind of liked how it did feel not so much like you kill a person and you get the armor, how much of it was you have to go search for the loot for the chests and stuff like that. I kind of liked that feel of it a little bit more. There was also like Orlog, this Norse game of dice that you could play, which was really fun.
In-game gambling.
There was like drinking games you could take part in.
Oh, that sounds fun.
The flighting, which were like basically like the insult rap battles of the day.
Oh yeah, you've told me about those.
Those were really fun to do.
That part does sound really fun.
Which was cool because as you got better at those and you increased your flighting level, that would unlock dialogue options later on to like persuade people because you like had this certain level of
you're
like,
basically improving your public speaking.
Exactly.
Oh my god, that's fantastic. I like that.
So there were a lot of different things that you could do like that. Standard Assassin's Creed, the synchronization points where like a high point you can go up and it unlocks and reveals more of the world to you and more things for you to explore, points of interest and whatnot.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does Assassin's Creed have a meter or anything like concrete that you can view that kind of tells you what your and these are like terms that I'm largely pulling from D&D, but like what's your persuasion, what's your charm level? Does it measure those?
You can like get a full breakdown of your abilities.
Okay.
I don't honestly pay attention to them that much.
I was just curious.
Because it is more like armor things. This one did have the typical RPG thing, like you collect all the pieces of a set, it gives you a bonus of some kind.
Oh, okay.
So there was that kind of aspect, but you can like get a full breakdown of like by, point percentage, whatever, what each thing adds up into your overall defense, attack, and whatnot.
I guess the other game I could have made a comparison to is Skyrim.
Oh, yeah.
I should have said that game, but it's so forgettable.
Making a lot of people mad.
Good.
Love it. But so you have all that stuff that you could do, and then to upgrade your armors and materials and things like that, you can part of it finding wealth. The chests will give you the upgrade materials like I think it was like bronze, nickel, and tungsten ingots and stuff. And that would
gonna be making light bulbs. What the hell?
And so you would find those throughout the world, and that's what you'd use to upgrade your stuff. I thought the crafting and you can also throughout the world get leather, iron, fabrics, other things like that you can take to do the miniature upgrades, because you can do like there's like the quality levels, the 3 quality levels, but then within those quality levels of the armor and weapons, there are then like mini upgrades you can do to just do the stat upgrades basically.
Oh, okay.
And so I thought that part of it was very well balanced. Even though I was 105 hours into the game, I was still like just finishing upgrading my stuff.
Dang.
So like I feel like the balance of true, I could have ground out hardcore finding all the different chests and everything and upgraded that stuff very early on. But just how I was playing, I was like, this fits very well. I'm hitting the end game and I'm just now finishing my armor. That feels appropriate.
Yeah.
Like I was like, I'm not feeling way too like overpowered and stuff, and kind of balanced with the pacing of the game setting. So I really like that a lot too.
That's all well and good. Stat upgrades and armor is super fun. Everybody likes that.
Yes.
Some people, myself included,
Yes.
only care about one thing. Can you guess what it is?
I have a pretty good idea.
Well, I'll just go on ahead and say it then. Who can you romance? What are your romance options?
There are
Can you
actually-
get married? Can you like form your own dynasty of Vikingness?
That would be cool.
That would be pretty awesome.
There are several romanceable characters, yes.
Okay. Are
Some
any of them good?
A lot of them are
Are
good.
they top tier waifu and husbando material?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say so. The
Okay.
game does it well with
I
that.
would like to hear about
I will
them.
say there is one like mild spoiler here. There is one like kind of long-term relationship you can join into.
That's such an ominous way to say
Sorry.
join.
You can find a lover who has
It makes it sound like
who
you're
is a
joining
more
a cult.
who is a more important character in the story.
Okay.
There
Is
are
it
a
Odin?
lot of no. There are a lot of romanceable side characters that you pretty much meet. You have a couple lines of conversation with them, and then they're like, "You want to do this?" And you're
See,
like, and I'm
that's
like, "Hell
not.
yeah."
I'm talking about the heart. I'm talking
there is
about
that.
matters of the
There is
heart.
okay, so
Jerrett.
like the main romance, I would say falls into that
Okay.
category. If you just want to go out and like across the countryside and bang your way across England, you can do that too. And that is what I did. As
Well,
Eivor.
that's understandable. I can't fault you for that.
I was just like,
understand.
I am the strong, powerful Norse warrior. Of course, I will take you to my bed.
Oh my god! I mean, you know what? If you've got the charm for it, why not?
Eivor has this charm.
Yeah.
Eivor has this like. That's what I loved about Eivor is, for one, outstanding job acting. Her actor, I wrote down her name, Cecilia Stenspiel. Cicely Stenspill. She did such a great job of doing Eivor. Brought that roughness, that like badassery to her, and just like made Eivor feel like a force to be reckoned with, but also like brought a softness to it in the same way. Like just balanced her out perfectly.
Yeah. Incredibly
well done. And so I feel like that, bringing that energy that brought, I was just like, of course I will take one. It's just like if they present to me and they're like, hey, I'm down, I'll be like, there are two consenting adults in this relationship. Let's go.
Let's do it.
I'm a free-thinking Viking warrior. I will do what I please. And so that is the energy that I brought through England. And so,
poor England. All those broken hearts.
Oh, man. But so there's all these things to it. And obviously, like, there is a lot to explore. There's a lot to see. There's a lot to discover. But now, I know I've mentioned a lot of different things that have really, like, sold me on the game. But now I'm going to, run through my list of pros. We're still avoiding story stuff. That's coming up in a little bit. So I will say, the world, and I've mentioned it a lot, the world was incredible. Yeah. Like, spending that time in the game and just, for me as a history nerd, like, who grew up, especially focusing more on like medieval England, especially like I know it was a couple hundred years in the future, but the Battle of Hastings at 1066, like that was a big thing that I like to read up a lot on. I actually even portrayed the English king at the time, Harold Godwinson. I portrayed him during like a school theater thing.
Oh my god!
That we had growing up.
Nerd.
I know. And so I really I feel like there have been, yes, the castle sims. I've played medieval games in the past, but this one really just kind of captured, it just captured that world perfectly. Well, and I know there are historical inaccuracies. I know like I'm doing some crazy shit moves that like would not be there. And I know it's not perfect, but like it felt so alive and felt real.
And people like comparing it to other games like Castle Sims and those kinds of things, they don't capture the environment because it's that top-down high-level view, and you need to be able to like get in there and actually walk around.
Right. But it's different even from, say, like the Dragon Ages, the high like fantasy series that still take place, or even Skyrim that still take place in these medieval worlds. But it's different because like this one was so cool because you're seeing these castles and these buildings that, like, remember when we did our episode with the Triple XP podcast when we were talking with Shane and Mike, and I mentioned there was just like I was like going through this castle. And just, it was so cool how well it looked. And Shane was just like, oh yeah, that's outside my window. I can see it from here. And it looks just like how it does in the game. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
That's crazy.
You can go up in north when you're in Scotland. And you can walk on Hadrian's Wall. There are Roman artifacts and Roman structures still around. Like Colosseums and amphitheaters still in like these cities, like when you're going through London and everything in the game. And it's just like seeing this like juxtaposition, something about that of like the old bringing into like that real middle age that the medieval era was. Just, I don't know, just something about seeing the two together was just so, it was exciting. It was kind of like magical. Like, and that's what like kept me in it, honestly, was just like, I'm like, this feels so much like kind of the game and the setting that I've been looking for, and like what really like clicks with me. That went so far. Yeah. And I think to an extent may have built a bias, and I may miss some of the things that like really weren't like the greatest, but like that's what I'm saying. The story was so big and at times felt too much, but at the same time I didn't care because like I just wanted more time inside this world.
Understand.
And so I really, really, really like that sold me on it so much.
I don't know what kinds of research the development teams do about locations like for these types of games, but I would love to know whether or not they do on-site, like if they go and physically visit them.
Especially with how there is now a discovery tour mode for this now, where you can just go and explore.
Surely they've got to send like a little team or
like
something. They should start making mini documentaries about that process and start putting them into like the special features of the games, because I would love to know about that part of that. Because if they're getting things down to like the last letter of being more or less accurate for certain environmental cues,
right?
Did you just Google that? Did you Google Earth it? Or did you go there and a couple of you actually took notes and did drawings and took photos and then came back to the rest of the team? I want to know more about that process.
I agree. That would be super cool. Yeah. But this is also something where it's like, I've played and like haven't gone back and finished Odyssey yet. But this is kind of how Assassin's Creed Origins set in ancient Egypt was for me. It's like that's such an area that's like not explored much. I was just connected with that world so strongly. And that's kind of what I had with Valhalla here. And so I will say then too, the combat is fun. And like it has like a learning curve to it, and you do have to take that on. It does get by end game, especially 105 hours later. You're kind of like, okay, I feel like I have the mastery of it, but I still never felt like the enemies leveled up with you well enough where I felt like you never felt
too overpowered.
Yeah. And so I really appreciated kind of that. Oh,
Zach's ghost.
What is going on?
He takes issue with what you just said.
He loves the combat of Valhalla. But, and so there's all that. I did really like, though, how there were what made the combat kind of fresh for me, which I've heard a lot of people say that they got tired of, but I never did, is that there would be these finishing move, like cinematic, basically, like a cut, like you didn't have control anymore. It like zoomed in and showed you doing like some powerful finishing move. I loved all those because with different weapon types, different weapon combinations, those would change, or depending on the enemy that you were killing, those like executions would change, and they were so cool and like very visceral, and also just embedded in how powerful Eivor is as a fighter, and it's just so cool.
And I mean, that's like, imagine playing Mortal Kombat and not finding the execution cutscenes entertaining. Like that's horse apples.
I mean, yes, maybe the frequency of them was a little too much, and that's what people were like, please, just not so many. But I loved it. Every time I like pulled one of those off, especially there's this one that if you like took somebody out from behind, Eivor would like dual wield axes and like cut off both their arms and then just like straight up take their head off. And I was like,
Jesus,
oh God, it's so cool.
Very cool, but heavens.
I know it sounds so bad to be like, it was so cool, but it was pretty cool.
Oh man. I mean, sometimes cool is just cool. What can I say? Oh man.
So I really appreciated how like the mixture of the different weapons versus the mixture of enemy types that you could fight against really kind of helped keeping that feeling fresh of the combat throughout. Also, in the more RPG setting of this, as you would go throughout the world and you would fight, you would complete areas, you would obviously gain XP that would level you up, and you would gain skill points. Those skill points, they would take you to this huge, expansive skill tree. It was big. And your power, your level was based on how many of these skill points you had acquired. And you would gain 2 per level up, basically. I believe I'm now like a level 300 something.
Wow.
With the power.
Damn.
I loved the skills because it has like these 3 branches, the Raven, Wolf, and Bear. And those correspond to some, like you can collect Bear armor sets. You can collect Raven weapons, Raven armor sets, different things like that. And they all have their like, Bear tends to be like the more fortified stuff, like it's heavier armor, heavier
more
weapons.
Defender stuff. Tanky.
Exactly. Raven is kind of like the mix, I feel like, the more like bow kind of stuff, whereas Wolf centers more on like weapon proficiency and different things like that. And so you could choose, especially early game when you're just starting out your path, you can choose a pretty defined, like, I want to stay away from Bear stuff, but I'm going to hit hardcore Raven and Wolf, or I'm just going to only go Raven and get all these skill sets. As the game progresses and you get eventually like to where I'm at with 300 something power, you kind of start to, at that point, you're filling in all the gaps. So you kind of have this broad range, but I like how it gives you the option to like hardline it, or you can even choose to have fate decide.
Oh.
And it automatically allocates those points to you.
I do really like features like that because some people don't enjoy skill trees. I do. Like, I would have gotten a lot out of that, but I know that there are people who are like, oh God, not another skill tree.
Yeah.
So both from just a standpoint of, well, what if you just want to play the game and let fate roll those dice? Mm-hmm. And from the standpoint of, I don't want to mess with this skill tree. I want an option that does it automatically for me. I like it from both of those perspectives.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on in it. It does help build that RPG element to it that really kind of make it feel like a good RPG. And I will say the other thing that I did like is that the settlement aspect of it, like I talked about, building that, growing that, It's kind of a upgraded take on the settlements of the villa of Assassin's Creed 2, where but there it was basically like you would buy like art pieces, you would upgrade a room inside a villa, and it would give you again some perks. But this one had a little bit more like life to it, and it did feel like you can interact with the people who live in the settlement.
I don't want that. I want to collect sweet art, Jerrett. I want to create my awesome mansion and leave everyone else out in the cold.
Well, you can do that in Assassin's Creed 2, Yeah, 2, 3, one of them. Anyway, so the final note that I will say of things that I did really appreciate is that, of course, the score is so good. Jesper Kyd is the composer alongside with Sarah Schachner, and then Einar Selvik, who is a musician, a Norwegian musician and everything, who coincidentally, the other singer Eivor, who I've talked about, who sang on the God of War soundtrack, they've like collaborated on stuff in the past too. And so he like was in charge of creating, like, as you're going in your longboat down the rivers and everything, there are like your crew will sing songs. That's
shanties.
The shanties and stuff. That's what like Einar Selvik brought to the game, and like he kind of brings that like more folk sound to it and everything. But you combine this like very Norse. In your head, if you hear that, if you think of that music, you very much have that represented here. But then I feel like Sarah Schachner brings in like that more modern tone, electronic feel to it all, and it blends so well. The main menu theme is this very haunting like string melody, and it's so good. I love it.
I love a haunting string melody.
And then like the battle scenes are like very, very it's interesting. It's never too like bombastic and just like boom boom like drum, intense battle music, but it still like has this like strong, powerful building feel to it all throughout, especially like battle tracks and different stuff like that. So outstanding score. There are also 7 albums.
Holy crap.
Of various compilations. There's like the main soundtrack, then there's like the shanties, then there's the other, just like there was like an EP of like tracks that they released to promote it, then there's all these like side things. There's so much
I'm
music
gonna have to look up the one of just the shanties, because I love that kind of stuff.
It's so good. Yeah. There's so much music to enjoy. I actually listened to a podcast that was an interview between Austin Wintory and Jesper Kyd.
Oh.
And it was super good. But that's also when I was like, oh no, I have so much more of this game to play. Because Jesper was saying like, I'm 90 hours into the game so far and I'm having a great time. I was like, oh my God, I'm only 60. No. So much more to go. But anyway, so yeah, that was all great. So I will here take a quick beat to talk about some of the story stuff that I do like. And I also understand everybody, I apologize, this episode's going to be a lengthy one.
It's going to be a pretty long.
So talking about then, so we are going to talk about some of the story beats and stuff. Like I said, the story overall is too hard to hit all the beats, but these are just the things that I liked a lot.
So there are going to be some spoilers ahead.
Spoilers ahead is what I'm saying. Yes. So take your earpods out, skip ahead, what have you. Spoilers begin now. So like I said, you move through all these different arcs. You move through these territories, building up your alliances. At the time, and especially early game, you and Sigurd are kind of like branching off doing your own thing. He's making contacts with other Viking settlements and trying to strengthen positions. You're going out doing the same thing. Every once in a while, your paths will intersect and you'll take these missions together. And then that kind of eventually will lead to a bigger conflict later on in the story. But one of these groups that you meet these 2 brothers, Ubba and Eivor Ragnarsson. Their arc was one of the best, I thought, of this whole thing, because they're like Ubba is kind of the more reserved, calculating of the 2 brothers. Eivor is the more like bloodlusty, kind of like, I'm ready to just go fuck shit up and let's go have a good time doing it in a terribly violent way. And you're kind of like interacting with them. And then throughout this arc, you take under your wing this boy, Ceolbert, who is the son of the newly appointed king of one of these territories that you've helped cleanse. You kind of like take him under your wing, and they kind of like are along with these 2 for several storylines and everything. You interact with them a lot, but it was just, without going too deeply into it and really stringing this out for too long, you basically are like trying to help Ceolbert learn how to be like a prince, a fighter, and all these other things. And, you're trying to balance it out with Eivor, who is being very much like, hey, just throw him in battle, get this done. We're here to like, he's got to learn how to do this eventually. But it all while trying to like balance him out with being like a diplomat and a politician and all this. Basically, it goes down. You're trying to get this one other area under your domain. And to do that, you have to like make this active war. And it's just this big twist where like Ceolbert winds up dying in this one fight.
Not new Trevor.
Yeah.
This is terrible.
It is terrible. And so that winds up happening, of course, has a big effect on Eivor.
Did that king have any other sons?
No, sadly, I don't think so. And so this had a big effect on Eivor. But like right after the final resolution of that battle where you wind up taking this territory, it turns out Eivor actually straight up murders Ceolbert to like cause the conflict. And so then it's like this big like fight between you and Eivor, and he was like a really tough fight. So like that was one of the arcs, and what was I thought the power of this arc system is like that was a super strong story.
Yeah,
like it was super like all the different. You're like I knew Eivor was kind of like off the was kind of off and like kind of crazy, but just
were
like
you about
it
to
was,
say off the chain?
Yeah. That's not what I was trying to go.
That makes it sound like a roaring party.
It's not a roaring party, but like it led to like this really great interactive story and kind of an ending I didn't necessarily see coming to it, and I thought that one just had some really great story writing to it. Let's see what else do we got here story wise. It was also awesome. In another part of your journeys, you do take a journey over to what they call Vinland, but it was America, and you meet the Iroquois tribe.
You told me about this. That's a really long journey by boat.
It was a long journey, and kind of like a weird like you're chasing one of the Order of Ancients over there, so that's why you go. But it was also very cool because it's like that's now been established in everything that the Vikings did make their way over to.
Yeah, I mean
like
that's historical
way before
fact.
obviously
Yes.
Columbus and the accredited discoverers.
Yeah, we don't subscribe to that.
Yeah,
but we're just saying
of America. Yeah, they made landfall way before the generally pre-accepted discoverers of America were. And so anyway, it was cool to kind of like have that side to it, and like just like seeing especially just like how the two peoples represented in this interacted with each other, the Vikings and the Iroquois, and just kind of the like mutual respect they held for each other and whatnot. But that was just cool. I didn't see that happening, so that was kind of like, oh, this is really cool. I really appreciated that. The final mission, because again, you're going through all these territories, you're making alliances, you're making friends, and like sometimes some of those people will come with you and join your settlement, or they'll come up again. You run into these people again, basically. And the final mission had some twists and even deaths that like I was like, oh shit! Like it kind of like cranked it up.
Heavens.
Again at the end, which I thought
Who
was
else
really
dies?
strong.
Tell me.
Well, like one of my allies I made was like one of my very first ones I made, and she gets killed, and I was like, holy shit! And her death was like really well done, like in a cinematic. It was like a very impactful one. Then like even another lord who was kind of like he was younger and just kind of like Ceolbert a little bit, where he was like more fresh faced and like new to this ruling thing, and he winds up dying, and that was kind of sad because he had been kind of like a happy go lucky kind of
a cool guy.
So like they really built, and I thought they did that well, especially again for how long the game was. Being able to bring that like energy and excitement back into like the final stages of the story was really, really good. But then also, I really appreciated the conflict that arises between Eivor and Sigurd, because they are like they're bound to each other by maybe not blood directly, but they feel like they are to each other. But eventually, throughout this time, in the interaction that Sigurd has with the assassins that you're working with, oh man, I could go on to this forever. This is actually going to be really hard to go into the story without just being here for forever.
I want to kind of hear about it though. Like you can just, we don't have to paint the full picture, but I want to know kind of what the end game is.
There's so many things. So basically, as you're going along through this, you are interacting with the assassins, and that's what's interesting in this too. Is Eivor is not technically an assassin.
Okay,
she just like is allied with them and like helping them in their goal.
Gotcha.
She gets the hidden blade and all that stuff. They give it to her as a gift, but she's not an assassin. So as you're going through this, you have Basim, who is one of the assassins, and he is like kind of being more with Sigurd in Sigurd's guide. Throughout their travels, they wind up meeting this woman, Folke, who is kind of like a mystic in a way, a paladin is what they call her, but and she is like kind of obsessed with the fact that Sigurd is not who he thinks he is. She thinks there's a greater power to him. Because again, in the Assassin's Creed universe, there's this like ancient race that is kind of what were the founders of humanity or lived on Earth before man were wiped out. And so she thinks he's connected to all of that.
Very Stargate, interesting.
But then also, Eivor has had these visions and has seen these things and like feels like she has this sight into the future as well. Also, like as you're going and creating the assassin and like assassinating people, she will have conversations with Odin. So like which isn't the norm.
Eivor will.
Yes. And so you kind of are having this like she feels like she's there for something greater. Sigurd feels like he has this greater purpose. And Basim is kind of along for the ride too. Like, and you can tell he's interested, but is trying to see where this is going.
It's so that he can ally with the right person
Exactly.
at the end.
So throughout the whole period, one of the big conflicts is that Folke eventually is revealed to be part of the Order of Ancients, the Templars. She's bad.
Sons
but
of
she,
bitches.
She captures Sigurd. She winds up torturing him.
Oh.
And like, because she does finally like kind of unlock that he is like, and he is special. Like there is something about him.
Okay.
And so you have to go eventually free Sigurd from this. But in his torture and all this, he's kind of like, she opened my eyes, Eivor. Like, I understand. I'm here for greater things. And so then it almost had me going, is Sigurd going to be the baddie? You know, is this where this is going? And there is a lot of conflict to it and everything. And alongside all of this happening in their world, you can also, through like this mix of medicines and with the help of the village seer, you can journey to Asgard. And you walk among like the Norse gods and everything. And in that storylines, in those arcs, you are Odin, but still playing as Eivor.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so there's this whole storyline going on here of like some threat to Asgard, Ragnarok, the threat of Ragnarok. Odin has seen visions of himself dying at Ragnarok, you know, being killed by a wolf and all this. And you meet Tyr, Loki, Thor, Freya, all the Norse gods and everything. And you have this long storyline going on there that eventually rolls up into being Loki, the trickster and everything like that, winds up siring a son, Fenrir, the great wolf.
This one.
Exactly. Fenrir.
The Fenrir. He's much smaller than I thought he would be.
And so you're learning all about this storyline and how does this connect with Eivor's Odin in this Asgardian quest, like how he is trying to stop Ragnarok and ensure that he will survive and all this. This is very hard to condense down into all this, but basically where it winds up going is that in part of his, and this is where I was very confused. It's like, where does this Asgard arc really fit in everything?
Yeah.
What it turns out is that to be able to avoid dying in Ragnarok, Odin manipulates the fates with the tree of life that is growing, and I'm maybe wrong if that's what it's actually called. Basically guaranteeing that by drinking this, he and his companions drink this before Ragnarok, this potion, basically, they may die, but their fates will not be totally cut off.
Okay.
Basically what it turns into, Eivor, Sigurd, and Basim are the current 873 AD reincarnations of Odin, Tyr, and Loki.
Oh, and Eivor is Odin?
Eivor's Odin.
Okay.
Sigurd is Tyr, and then Basim, who does kind of turn out to be a baddie, is Loki.
That's pretty interesting. That's definitely a bold take.
It's a bold somehow take. That all ties into the old overarching modern day storyline. That's where I was even a little confused. But then again, I was just like, I don't really care. I'm here for the Viking
It's pretty
stuff.
cool. Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever.
So there's a lot, and I hope that made sense, but there was a lot of, and that's what I mean, like how much detail do I go into here? Because there's so much, but that's kind of like the overarching thing.
Okay.
And so Sigurd is basically like seeing these delusions of grandeur because he is technically like a god,
yeah.
as is Eivor, as is Basim. And so they have that conflict in that, and then everything, and throughout the course of the game, obviously that is resolved. But to now, I think that was basically all this story stuff.
I will say that.
Do you have any questions about it? Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
I feel like I'm just dropping tangents.
So something that I was really interested in, really the parts of Assassin's Creed Valhalla that interest me are A, the homesteading, I love that kind of crap, and B, I was really curious to learn more about what kinds of myths, like what kinds of the mythology managed to make it into the main game, because reality is all well and good, meaning it sucks. I like to live in fantasy land,
have a little bit of that.
And having more of that, not necessarily like grounded reality take, and making it a little bit more fantastical.
Which is what I think.
That actually really appeals to me, because if it were just like, oh no, you're just regular Vikings and you're just going out and conquering, boring.
Right.
Lame. Don't like that. But like, oh no, you're actually secretly a god. And so are some other people. And there's like visions and crap. That's where I'm like, okay, I can get on board with that.
Yeah. And I think Assassin's Creed does a really good job of towing that line of the historical real world, quote unquote, to tying in more fantasy elements
Make
and
it
like
crazy.
sci-fi elements, stuff like that. They do a good job of towing that line really well. And so, but I legitimately I was like, why is this included? And it really wasn't until the end and the
That they
final
tie
wrap
it
up of
all
that arc that I was
together.
like, oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
So the story was good. Again, like I said, it was so stretched out by the time I did bring it to its conclusion, but I still was like, okay, I get it. But also at the end of the day, the story wasn't what I was there for.
Can I ask, are there any of the kind of side stories? Basically, my question is, of the side stories that you felt bloated the game, which are the ones that you would have had removed? Like, if you could remove
There was
any
one where
from it.
you just a lord and his wife were like, we don't love each other, but we're bound together because of like a alliance
Economics,
kind of thing,
right.
and stuff between our two kingdoms. And so you are helping them dissolve their marriage / find the king's
Marriage counselor Eivor.
going and helping find his one true love from before he was ruler. And so it was kind of I was kind of like, this one, what am I doing here? But that one, I was kind of I could miss that. Some of them too were just here I am again. There's a threat to this one kingdom. It's a father, or they're gone, and now a new ruler has to be decided for this area, and you kind of just go through this. Sometimes there would be one who is they're not sure if their followers are loyal to them or not, or trying to, and you have to do an investigation to figure out who's going to betray them, and then make your choice there at the end of those arcs. So it's different stuff like that, but they kind of repeated themselves a little bit. And it never actually really told you which ones were. There was a defining point after Sigurd is captured by Fulke where you do have to choose you go to this territory, complete this arc, and this will move the story forward. But and every time you would want to go to that part, it would say we need allies to be able to do this well. And I was like, oh, we need everybody then. This is I thought what I was kind of feeling, I was like, oh, this is end game. That's why it got big for me, because I was then going out and getting everything. So I could be like, here we go. We're going to break Sigurd out. This is going to be end game. I need to have all my homies with me. Did not need to do that. And so that's why it kind of expanded. And then I was like, oh, I did way too much.
Yeah.
But what kind of defines that is the power level for each territory. So I would be like, oh, okay, I'll do the low level ones. Then as I progress there, I'll do the high level ones. And then I'll be ready to do that one. But then by the time I was ready to do that one, I was level 250 something, and that one only required a level of 190. So it was kind of oh, I see what I did here.
Yeah, you did too much.
I did too much.
Okay.
But so story-wise and everything, now I'm going to kind of try to wrap this all up with the things I did not like, the cons. And I've kind of thrown some stuff here and there, especially the story. But here we go. I already said it. The amount of territories to ally with, it was too high. Bring it down a little bit. I understand not all of them were required for the final story to be finished, but to unlock the final chapter of the Hidden Ones quest line, you do have to go into a territory that's recommended to be power 340.
Oh, wow.
So you do have to be high.
So super end game.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where I was even though the skill system is done really well, the power system did not complement it well enough. Because I was I finished what should have been the main storyline, but then I still had to grind out 20-ish power levels before I could then feel like I could conclude the full final end of the game by seeing the conclusion of the Hidden One arc. So I was kind of that's weird. Why do I get to the end game? Then you're going to make me grind out so much for a honestly lackluster end to that quest line. So I was kind of that's a weird choice. But which kind of leads me into the one con that I had. This is an Assassin's Creed game, yes, but the Assassin's Creed aspects of it, especially from what the series used to be, is very minimal and very far removed.
Yeah.
For example, the Assassin-Templar conflict, which is very much the overall cause of everything, honestly, wasn't that important, it felt like. You can go assassinate Order members throughout the world, and in Origins and Odyssey had the mercenaries, this one has zealots who can potentially hunt you down and be tracking you constantly. But because of a decision you can make fairly early on in the game, they won't actively hunt you.
Oh,
or you can
interesting.
choose to either let them still hunt you, or you can choose to not. I thought it was going to be a kind of thing the ones in this area won't hunt you if you make this choice. But no, they just won't actively hunt you. So then it becomes a choice to interact with them. But you do have to kill them all to finish up the Hidden Ones quest.
I see.
So it's kind of that is overall there. But overall, you would kill these members, but you wouldn't really feel any connection to it because they just became very checkboxy, like, okay, that's done, that's done, that's done. And after you would assassinate each one, you would have like this little conversation with them before you banish them to hell or whatever. And you would talk to them and they'd like talk about their reasons why, but I was also like, I don't know you. Like, this doesn't matter to me.
The game has given you no personification, and now all of a sudden you're wanting to talk right before you die.
Yeah. So it was like, even though the Zealots were really hard to fight and they were good fights, it was just like, I don't see the purpose of you.
Yeah.
Again, just which is weird that like this very main thing to the Assassin's Creed franchise, this conflict between the Assassins and the Templar, would take such a backseat. But to some extent, that wasn't also necessarily terrible because, again, I'm here like, this world is so cool. Like, yeah. I'm having a good time here. So really what it meant is that Folke was the like one of the only people who I killed of the Order who I was actually like, I get why I'm killing you.
Yeah.
There were like two that really had that feel to me.
Look her up.
And
see
so
what she looks like.
that was kind of a weird thing that would take such a backseat, really. There were some like weird glitches. Like, I had a lot of issues with bow combat. I would sometimes want to do like a quick draw attack and it would spin my character around and she would lock onto somebody behind me. I'm like,
Whoops.
What is this? This is very difficult.
Oh.
The parkour didn't feel as refined either. And like the traversal of stuff wasn't as refined as I felt past games had. And I feel like that could potentially be because they're sacrificing for the more like be able to climb everything and go everywhere kind of feel. But like in the old Assassin's Creed games, to climb a tower to get to a sync point, you would have to pretty much follow this one defined path and you would have to like try to figure out the right way to go. Sometimes you would fall and die, but you know, you had to do that. And that made even that challenging. But now it's just like, oh, there's a tower, you know, climb up it and you're done.
I just looked up Folke. She looks extremely different than what I was expecting.
Got that bowl cut look.
No, when you described her as like a mystic, I was imagining like an older wise woman, and she's like a youngish woman with a terrible bowl cut.
Yeah, it's bad. Technically, she is a Christian zealot. Is what
Does that explain the bowl cut?
It is more along the lines of like a monk's hairstyle.
Oh my god, that's really funny. But yeah, this isn't relevant to the conversation. She's just not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah, and so that happens. And then I would also say, too, that some of the decisions that you make in the arcs and in these storylines are presented as very heavy, such as especially the ones like where you have to decide if someone is betraying you or not, and then you ultimately make a choice that gets that person killed or not.
Gotcha.
Those decisions would present themselves as very heavy at the time, but ultimately had zero impact on the rest of the game. You would still ally yourself with that territory. Those allies would still show up. Those decisions after the arc itself had no carry-on.
See,
effect.
that's lame. If your decisions don't really matter, don't put them in the game.
Basically, there was no way to fail a territory.
That's bad design. I don't like that at all.
I think if there had been those stakes, like you could like conclude that area, but it could be that they're not allied with you. I think that would have been way stronger than you just take over everything.
Yeah.
I thought that would have added a little bit more into it.
I think you missed it, but just a second ago, Fender was having little puppy dreams, and his little paws were moving.
Were moving around. He's a sweet little boy. Let's see. Another weird thing, you couldn't preview cosmetic items if you were going to buy them in a store.
That's bullshit.
You couldn't preview like a tattoo design you were going to buy.
Oh, no. That's
or even what a weapon looked like.
Oh, no.
No, I don't
no.
understand.
That
makes no sense to me.
Terrible. Oh, man.
They did. So that system was in place. And then people were like, this is dumb. Why can't I then change stuff to look like it? They had to add in like a transmogrifying process to make things be able to change their look and appearance later in a patch. Because people were like, this is dumb. You made me buy this. Then I can't choose what it looks like to match my stuff.
Oh, my God.
So that was like a weird little like, what? But the one bug like kind of, and I mentioned it in my first impressions, and I can't decide if it was a bug or how it was implemented. I've looked online and people have said kind of the same thing. The music just, while fantastic, I feel like there was a bug or something going on where it would not play correctly.
It just wouldn't sync with what was actually happening.
Or just like it wasn't there at all. And like it was like the end of a quest line. And I feel like I should have some like, tie up epic conclusion music happening in the background here. And it's just silence as like a time lapse goes by kind of thing. It was weird.
Like that time that they released the trailer for The Mummy with Tom Cruise, and it was just him screaming in that plane with no music in the background.
I remember that. It was kind of stuff like that. I was like, I feel like there should be music tying this together here, and it's not.
Yeah,
but like
that's
during
weird.
normal, just like running around, background music or combat music, that was all really great. But just for whatever reason, in like the main missions and things, it felt like there was a lot of disconnect with what I felt like there was stuff missing musically and stuff in it, which. That's a big deal for me.
It is. And it's really jarring. Like that can instantly take you out of a moment if you're like, wait, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
So it's kind of like what we were saying with Tell Me Why, with some of the like the voice acting not feeling quite there.
It takes you out of that moment
Video games,
so hard.
Because it's not like a movie and it's not, like say even like the production level of say like a completely CGI film like with realistic graphics, because they obviously have to bend that into like what a game looks like. It's like you still need like those emotion boosters, like the great voice acting, the great music to like kind of like sometimes take what the honestly incredible art and design work that is done and just kind of like add in those emotional things to it that can be lacking, like from facial animations not being totally 100% what humans are. Different things like that, those emotional boosters. And if those aren't there, it kind of like left it lackluster at times. So
I get it.
Basically, to kind of draw all this I've poured all these thoughts into a pot and now I'm stirring them all together to kind of like bring this together, I hope, in a conclusive review. There's just so much to this one. It's hard to bring it all down. If you're looking for like like an Assassin's Creed game, I would almost say this is it, but it's not that definitive Assassin's Creed experience. If you're looking for like like what we were saying, like that grounded fantasy feel medieval game, yes, it's 100% here for you. If you're looking for a game where you can live as a Viking and do Viking shit and then even like get that look into their lore and their mythology with the different quest lines in Asgard, you can do that and you get that. And I think this game delivers in spades. The historical nerd of me was incredibly happy playing this game the entire way through.
Yeah.
So I feel like temper your expectations to what you're hoping to get at. If you're looking for like, again, that hardcore Assassin's Creed, this is going to take me back to the days of Ezio and whatever, or even Origins, I would say. I don't know if it's there.
Probably not.
Because like I said, it's kind of weird to me that Eivor's not an assassin.
Yeah,
it's
that
kind
is
of weird
an
to me that it's like,
choice.
again, taking the thing that makes Assassin's Creed what it is and putting it to the back burner a little. So if you're looking for that, I would say this game probably isn't what you're going to be looking for. But if you're looking for that like really grounded-ish feel of a medieval world that you get to explore in a AAA produced open world, with incredibly looking graphics, especially playing on the PS5, my God, it's beautiful. And you want to get lost in that world, this is for sure your game. So
awesome.
I know that was a lot, and I knew I threw a lot of information here, but that's my review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
I greatly enjoyed hearing about it.
Oh, good.
Wait, you didn't tell me. Never mind.
Oh, what?
About the romanceable option, the one that actually mattered.
Oh, okay. Spoiler. You can romance and basically be doing all the things with, have sex, sleeping with Sigurd's wife.
Scandal! Heavens to Betsy! It's got drama. It's got romance.
So you're like,
I do really like that.
Yeah.
It's super funny.
That adds in a little bit to the clashing of heads and stuff. You're kind of like keeping it a secret.
That's incredible.
And all this stuff. And it does reach a resolution and everything. But yeah, it's that was kind of the big one. But I saw this. You like find a note from her. Ranvi is her name. And you find a note from her. She's just like, I keep seeing Eivor, across from me at the alliance table, and I know we're friends and and our family because of our bond with Sigurd and everything like that. But I can't help but feel like there's something more. And then a quest line opens up later where you can like talk about it with her, and she was just like, I feel like we should. And I was just like, I feel like we should.
I think we should.
And then every time you go to Ravensthorpe and you go into your longhouse and you go to the alliance table, you can like walk up to her and talk to her, and you can like kiss her or say like, or take her to bed and everything like that. But it's really funny how it does it. It's like, it's funny because you basically watch it once, but it's the same, and it gives you the option to do it every time, but it's the same like cutscene or whatever.
That's hysterical.
So it's like you walk up to her and you're like, should we take this to your chamber? And she's like, no need. Let's just do it right here. So you pick her up and like set her up on a table and all this. And it's like,
that's hysterical. I guess nobody else was at the alliance meeting.
No, it's just you and her. So
Oh my
But
god.
yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Anyways, sounds like a fun game.
It is. I mean, I will say, like, I had the issues with the story and I felt it was bloated, but I still played 105 hours
Yeah,
in it.
you wouldn't have put in those kinds of hours if you weren't having
Exactly.
fun, if something weren't keeping you there.
So that's I'm tired of talking. That was a lot of talking.
That's a lot of talking. We can wrap this
Oh
up.
man, but yeah. So thanks everybody for enjoying this review of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. If you have played it, I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Or if you have any questions for me about the game as well, if you're interested in it, whatever, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. So send us an email at teamchatpodcast@gmail.com. Jump on the Discord server with us and chat about it with us there. But until next time, everybody, that pretty much wraps up this episode of Team Chat Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined across the table to my right by Rachel Mogan.
Adios.
We'll see you all next time.